Tonight, Robert Downey Jr. puts on the heavy metal one more time in Iron Man 3.
Mads Mikkelsen finds it's not all child's play when it comes to friendship in The Hunt.
And Miles Pollard and Xavier Samuel kickstart a new surfing era in Drift.
Hi.
Good evening.
Also tonight, we chat with actor Miles Pollard for Drift and director Thomas Vinterberg for The Hunt.
And this week's classic is Peter Weir's 1981 film Gallipoli. But first, Margaret, tell us about Drift.
Well, it's rare that a non-documentary surfing movie comes to cinemas, but heading our way is Drift, a tale of Aussie battlers who take on more than the huge surf off the southwestern coast of Western Australia. More than 10 years ago, Kat Robin Malcolm ran away from an abusive husband in Sydney and got as far away as she could with her two sons. Now, 12 years later, Andy, Miles Pollard, is frustrated working in a dead-end job, while younger brother Jimmy, Xavier Samuel, is a talented surfer. But that's about all he does. When they run into visiting surfing photographer JB, Sam Worthington, and his protege Lani, Leslie Ann Brandt, Andy gets an idea. He wants to start a surfing shop, with Kat making the wetsuits and the boys making the boards.
Hey. All right, before you go, I think this is a good opportunity for me to give the rousing speech you're expecting.
Here we go.
Well, none of you'll be surprised to hear that I don't know the first thing about running a business.
Oh, I thought they were generous letting you finish secondary school.
Don't give Mum a smile for the camera over here. Still, I reckon we've got to have some rules, right, Jim?
Yeah. Where we go, guys?
All right, the first rule is this. When there's surf, we surf, and when it's flat, we work.
Sibling rivalries over Lani emerge, and there are confrontations with local drug dealer and all-round bad guy Steve Bastoni, which threatens their nascent business. Co-directed by Morgan O'Neill, who wrote the screenplay based on a story by Tim Duffy, and by Ben Knott, who was responsible for the splendid surfing sequences, Drift pays homage to the iconic Australian surfing brands that emerged during the 1970s. It's been very nicely written. It doesn't break any new ground in terms of plot, but it does break new ground with the ease in which it deals with Australian characters. All the performances are good. Miles Pollard, who was also one of the producers on the film, has a lovely screen presence. You can just predict that he won't be staying on our shores for long. Sam Worthington has fun with JB and he's terrific. Xavier Samuel and Robin Malcolm just add to the lustre of this very Australian, very enjoyable film. David, I hope you liked it.
I did, actually, and I didn't expect to. I mean, that's a terrible thing.
I didn't expect you to.
Oh, you didn't either?
No. It's a sporting movie, for goodness sake.
Well, yeah, and a very specific sort of sporting movie, and I'm not that into that sort of thing. So I went with some misgivings, but I was actually quite overwhelmed by how... First of all, by how well it's shot. It's an incredibly well photographed film.
And really nicely put together, edited
Yeah.
by Marcus Darcy.
And I found the characters much more interesting than I thought they would be. I mean, look, there are a lot of cliches here, but somehow the cliches are subsumed and they don't matter as much as I thought they would. What I found was interesting was that Sam Worthington, I mean, this is an international movie star, takes third billing, playing this chronicler of these surfing events.
I think it's the West Australia Mafia working here.
Well,
I think they're all West Australian boys. But you know, I think this is a lovely performance from Sam, and it allowed him to stretch himself in a different direction.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I think they're all good, and as I say, to my surprise, I really enjoyed it.
Well,
I'm giving it 4.
So am I. 4 stars. Let's hope other people give it 4 stars as well.
We're going to check out the canyons later. Think it'll handle the big stuff?
Why don't you borrow it and find out?
Oh, no, I couldn't do that. Wouldn't feel comfortable.
Why not? You know your way around a wave?
Go for it. You're not going to steal it.
Promise you'll pick it up whenever you need to?
Scout's honour.
I'll even swing by and pick it up personally.
Okay. Well, I'll let you know how it goes then.
Okay.
Later.
See ya.
Scout's honour.
What?
No wonder you're single.
Kidding me, aren't you? She couldn't take her eyes off me.
Yeah. She was trying to work out if you were my brother or my dad.
When I was in America about 7 years ago, I met a West Aussie producer, and he had a screenplay called Drift. and we got talking about the region. I was keen to do something different. I'd been on Australian TV for a while doing McLeod's Daughters and a bunch of guest roles in other films. I think I always had a passion to do something like this. I've always been a little entrepreneurial, I suppose, and so taking up the offer to produce something was probably it didn't have a lot of gravity to it for me. I think I just did it because I thought it might give me some autonomy and something to do, a little bit of a hobby. And then as time went on, it just developed and elements came on board. Michelle Bennett came on board. We raised a small amount of capital to develop the script. We had Screen Australia come on board. We got Sam Worthington interested in the project. And suddenly, hey, hang on a minute, we just got greenlit. It was incredible, and it happened over 7 years. But it went in a blink. And then suddenly we're in, principal photography shooting in winter in WA.
Were you always going to play Andy?
I think so, yeah. Selfishly, I wanted to play one of the brothers, and he would obviously be the older brother. I couldn't play a 20-year-old. My ego's not that big yet. So there was a bit of restraint there too, being close to the process, the writing process, having to, really be true to archetype and make sure that the relationship was sound and had integrity. And, one character in Jimmy he's very rebellious, he's free-spirited, as opposed to Andy, who complements him with his stoicism, and he's really ambitious and disciplined. So being true to those qualities as well.
That's awesome for surfers who can rip. Don't forget about the rest of the world too.
Bugging the rest of the world?
No, you think about it. There's a whole bunch of people out there waiting to surf better because of our gear. And play our cards right, we could be shaping a much bigger future here.
Shaping a much bigger future. TV ad. You can't beat the man by becoming the man, yeah?
No, I'm just thinking big picture. What's wrong with that?
Sam, so what did you do? Ring him up and say, when are you free?
I wish it was that simple. When he was really interested was about 3.5 years into the development, and I showed him a lookbook which was created by Ben Knott, one of my business partners who co-directed the film. And it was basically a pictorial representation of the film, just a visual book of inspiration. And I was just sitting down casually with Sam, and he was looking at it with me, because I had no expectations at this point that he would be in the film because he was so busy. And he looked at a photo of a surf photographer, and over a beer he said, "I want to play him." And I went, "What?" He said, "Yeah, that guy there is really interesting, a sort of a George Greeno's type character, 70s surf photographer." And I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, well let's talk business. Let's connect, our team with your team." And that process took another 2 years, I think. And then it was matching that with his availability. But he was inspired by that book.
That was actor and producer Miles Pollard talking about the film Drift, which opens nationally this week. For the third outing in the very entertaining Iron Man franchise, writer-director Shane Black replaces Jon Favreau behind the camera. Although he's written a number of highly regarded screenplays, starting with Lethal Weapon, Black has only directed one film prior to this, the enjoyable Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which also starred Robert Downey Jr. So the good news is that multi-millionaire Tony Stark is back, prone to panic attacks and snappy with the one-liners, and that he and Pepper Potts' Gwyneth Paltrow are getting along pretty well. But when Tony's clifftop house is attacked by forces apparently unleashed by an ultra-terrorist, the Mandarin, Ben Kingsley, and after his friend and security chief, Happy Hogan, Jon Favreau, is hospitalised, Tony, with only one Iron Man suit at his disposal, has to find a way to stop the Mandarin's evil designs on the President of the United States and come to terms with the equally evil and deranged plans of Aldrich Killian, Guy Pearce. The Marvel Studios' seemingly endless series of superhero movies is not the best or the worst of the bunch. The Iron Man movies are fun mainly because of Robert Downey Jr., whose sarcastic jokes and beautifully timed shtick are a constant source of enjoyment. Of course, the new film boasts state-of-the-art action scenes such as the attack on Air Force One and an unusually strong supporting cast that includes Rebecca Hall and Don Cheadle. There are some unexpected and amusing twists, and if you sit through the lengthy end credits, there's a hilarious conversation between Stark and Bruce Banner, alias the Hulk, alias Mark Ruffalo. fans of this sort of thing will have a ball. Margaret.
It's pretty spectacular action stuff, isn't it? And Robert Downey Jr. it's sort of like the role. He's just embraced this role, and it suits him. He's got that, you know, hip flip attitude that's right for the role. Look, I think Ben Kingsley is gorgeous in this.
He's very funny, I think.
But did you find that the plot was a little bit hard to work out?
Well, I'm not sure that the plot is so important.
Well, I wondered
like
about this. I wonder whether, you know, it's an obfuscation, you know, all the action and the flip lines and, you know, the logic of plot seems to go a little bit by the way.
I mean, I think it's got more plot than some of these films, but
yeah, but a comprehensible plot?
Well,
I'm not so sure. I mean, what was Killian really after? I don't know.
Well, he had his wicked, evil plans. And I think Guy Pearce does that very well.
Yes, he does. He's taking on some interesting roles lately. Look, I'm giving this 3.5 stars.
I am too, 3.5.
That's all pretty ridiculous but spectacular, isn't it? Iron Man 3 is currently screening around the country. 2 films stood out for me at last year's Cannes Film Festival. One was Amour, which won the Palme d'Or, that was recently in cinemas here. And the other was The Hunt, from director Thomas Vinterberg, for which Mads Mikkelsen won Best Actor. He plays Lucas, who's filling in as an assistant at a kindergarten because the school where he was teaching closed down. He's not having a good time of it, with a messy divorce behind him, separation from his son, Marcus, Lassie for master strikes. Unwittingly, Theo's young daughter, Clara, Annika Vedekop. However, it's been handled superbly by Vinterberg, working with co-screenwriter Tobias Lindholm. We, the audience, are in a privileged position. We know Lucas is innocent, and we can only watch in anguish as the life of this decent man falls in a heap. It's really about the fragility of trust in relationships, particularly when the subject of child sexual abuse rears its ugly head. Performances are just astoundingly good. Mikkelsen deserved his win in Cannes, but young Annika Vedekop is also extraordinary. There's a wonderful compassion at the heart of this film, and it's in the character of Lucas, for whom nothing will ever be the same again. David.
Look, I agree with you. This was a great treat in Cannes last year. Again, I went with some trepidation because I wasn't a big fan of The Celebration, Festen, which was the early Vinterberg film made under the Dogma banner.
You always had a bit of a prejudice against Dogma.
Rightly so, I think.
I don't agree.
But he's matured since then, and this is a very mature film and a very fine film, great performances. I mean, the child is amazing, but they're all very, very good. And I think he nails this small town atmosphere so beautifully with the kindergarten, the supermarket. You know, just a very small, tight-knit conservative community.
And Lucas's relationship with his son too is
beautifully
handled so nicely.
I just had a problem with very near the end, not the very last scene, but very near the end. And I'm obviously going to say what it is, but there was a scene that for me didn't ring true at all, given what's happened before. I just didn't buy it. And that slightly limited the film's success as far as I was concerned. But in the scheme of things, that's relatively minor, because I think it's an unmissable film. It's a very, very good film.
It's wonderful, and the ending is sort of like...
The very end is fantastic, yeah.
I'm giving it 4.5 stars, David.
I'm giving it 4, Margaret.
Enjoy these brothers. I found them loving and caring. I don't feel anyone betrays anyone, actually. I feel they abandon him in order to protect themselves. I see them all as naive children who doesn't know what to do. I see them all as good-hearted, naive people who are fooling around with this lie between them. So now, I grew up in a hippie commune, and there was no problem. And when there was love between grown-ups and children, not sexual love, but true, pure love, they could touch each other. All these things are gone. It's now replaced with suspiciousness and fear. Every time I put my hands in the soil of Denmark and place myself in a kindergarten in some grey weather or something like that, and deep down Danish society, people pay attention to it. So the further inside my country and myself I get, the more the film comes out somehow. I feel a little trapped by that. I also want to get the hell out of there, and I'm being offered things, and I'm tempted by that, and I'm confused by that. Not as confused as 14 years ago. I wouldn't even say confused, maybe just doubtful about where I am tomorrow, but we'll see.
That was writer-director Thomas Vinterberg talking about his film The Hunt, which opens in limited national release this week. And now for the classic. Peter Weir had been powerfully affected by a visit to Anzac Cove on his first trip overseas, before he became the acclaimed filmmaker of Picnic at Hanging Rock and The Last Wave. His dream to make a film about the spirit of Anzac was realised when two expat Australians, Rupert Murdoch and Robert Stigwood, formed Associated R&R Films to finance large-scale local productions. Sadly, Gallipoli was the only film that resulted, but what a triumph. And Larrikin Frank, Mel Gibson, who meet at a carnival in 1915 with a cast that includes Bill Kerr as Archie's coach and mentor, Bill Hunter as an officer who loves classical music and misses his wife, and Tim McKenzie, Robert Grubb, David Argue, the scene in which the boats approach Anzac Cove at night, eerily beautiful, the climax in the trenches almost unbearably moving. Overseas, where the film was billed as a place you've never heard of, a story you'll never forget, there was criticism of the film's treatment of the British officers, but Weir's excellence as a director was confirmed. For many Australians, Gallipoli was and is a triumph. Margaret.
Absolutely, David. I can remember seeing this film and I could not get out of my seat in the cinema, even thinking about it now. And I have rewatched all the classics that you have chosen, and I can't do this one. I can't do it. It moved me so terribly. And it was a wonderful film experience. And it was part of that definition of us as a nation too. A lot of those films from the 70s and early 80s were attempts to explore our history. Breakham Rand, Caddy, you know...
Yeah, it was a wonderful period, wonderful period for us.
We went back to try and find where we came from and who we are, and this was sort of like the absolute climax of it for me. I thought it was just the most stunning film with the most wonderful theme music from Zhao, Oxygen. That music is so powerful.
I must say I was very fortunate because I was on location for a few days down in South Australia. They filmed it near Port Lincoln and they found a beach there that looked like Anzac Cove. And it was an amazing experience actually being there while the film was being shot.
And Mel, he's so young, he's so Australian.
And he's so good. Mark Lee is very good too. They're all really very, very good. And it is such a moving film. The last part of the film, unbearably moving. Have a look.
It brings it all back, David. It's truly wonderful. That's Gallipoli.
Now, Baz Luhrmann's film The Great Gatsby opens in America tomorrow. Unfortunately, Australian audiences will have to wait another month to see this Australian production.
It is a bit mean. However, we will bring you news of the film from the Cannes Film Festival. And that's the show for tonight, so good night from us.
Good night.